see you. Do we even need an introduction for Matt Ham or not?
I know it's awesome.
Well, they're gonna know who you are, that's for sure.
Yeah, yeah. Good thing I got any zits or anything like that. Should have waxed my dome, and sent some of that light back at you. But I think we're setting the record for tallest average height to presenters at Envision.
This year?
Yeah.
Overall?
Oh yeah, he's 6'9", I'm 6'5". So.
Yeah, I'm only like 6'2" and a half on my best day. So.
How the kids doing?
Good.
Good.
Yeah, third grade's treating them well.
Nice.
It's birthday party every weekend, it seems like, for one or the other, and sometimes both.
Yeah. There's always something going on. It's like my wife was trying to sign the kids up for swimming lessons, and it would have been like swimming Monday, soccer Tuesday, dance and swimming Wednesday, soccer Thursday, and then t-ball on Saturday. Hard no. Like that sounds exhausting to me, let alone like a 6 and a 4-year-old.
Yeah, it's my son played baseball this last summer I coached, so that was at night. Well, they're 9 now, but and that was important for them to compete for that.
I got
Little
roped into
scouts back home.
coaching Mason's. It's like coach's pitch baseball,
Yep, that's right.
and
How old is he?
he's 6.
Okay.
And it was fun. But there was definitely like half the kids were like, "I'm here to play baseball," and then the other kids were like, "I'm here to like literally eat the dirt." Like there was one kid, what was his name? I forget his name. Barrett. And so we're playing at the Rusted, and he's got a
Yep.
pile of like those black crushed up,
The sand or whatever, the rubber.
literally like sticking them and eating them. I'm like, Barrett, what are you doing?
That's it. That's not gonna go away. You're about 2 years away from that actually going
I
away.
know. And then we had one kid too, and like so it's just two of us, and there's like 12, 6-year-olds. It's impossible to keep track of them all, but we're
Sure.
in the Rusted. One of them just like, "I'm done," and just walked off, and we didn't notice. And his mom comes up to us and he's like, "Where's Colton?" I'm like, "He's I don't know." And then she gets all mad at us. It's like, "What are you doing?"
Right, we're not your babysitters.
Yeah, like you're sitting right there too. So.
No, we've had that. I had that discussion, unfortunately, with parents once or twice too. If you want to look at that real quick,
I
I'm
don't.
assuming you provided that. But.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean that's good enough. It's. I think most people in town should have a general idea of who I am at this point. So.
Right. How many are in here?
A little bare today, but I
There's
blame.
a Microsoft in that, or in that one that's down the hallway there.
So you hate Microsoft?
Well, it's 365. I mean, it's one of those things that everybody has,
Yeah.
right? Versus Cisco's a little more specialized. But yeah, there's a new security solution tied to it as well. So that's part of it.
Yeah. No big deal. It's all recorded, so.
Yeah, it's all virtual. It'd be people watching from the Midwest, tri-state.
After my first year I presented, it's like, "Oh, here's the link to your YouTube, your presentation on YouTube." I'm like, "Excuse me, my what? Where?" Like I didn't know that was part of the deal.
Oh yeah, no, it's all these virtual sessions, so that so if one of these guys, for example, wanted to rewatch it, we can just send them the link and say, here you go, way to go. So it works out pretty slick. Oh, sorry guys. Mic is on. Good morning, everybody. People are kind of filtering in here. I can't tell if there's 5 people out there or 500. So thanks. We appreciate you guys coming in this afternoon, I guess, for Envision 2025. New Guard. I've been with Network Center for a little over 8 years. We're kind of doing a new thing this year with our breakout sessions. At the beginning of each, we're kind of introducing a new, call it a FlexCare fact. For those of you who aren't familiar, FlexCare is our managed services offering platform. We have a new offering that just became available here about within the last 60 days or so. The product is called Threat Locker. Threat Locker, some of you may or may not be familiar with it, but what it does is puts you in control of which software scripts, executables, and libraries that can run on endpoints and servers. So, for an example, if Matt was trying to download something that maybe he shouldn't have been or is not approved, it would prompt you to either approve or deny that download. So it's another layer of security for your network and for your end users. This morning's session is called Cisco Cloud and Collaboration Updates. We have Matt Ham. He's a network solution engineer with Cisco. Cisco's been a partner of Network Centers for 30 plus years, and Matt's been a great partner of Network Center in the Fargo-Moorhead region the last, what, 3?
Been here coming up on 6 years.
Coming up
now.
on 6, I'm sorry. Time flies when you're having fun, right?
Some people.
When you're talking networking. But yeah, without further ado, go ahead, Matt. Thank you.
Yes, we got a two-part presentation today. I'll be covering the first half here. I'm going to go through basically the enterprise networking, campus networking, hardware updates, if you guys aren't familiar with those from the last 12 months or so, and just kind of talk about maybe the top 2 or 3 reasons why at each step of the network layers that you should kind of care about some of these new devices here. So like I said, over the past 12 months or so, we've refreshed our entire enterprise networking portfolio from the wireless to the access switching out to the routers and things like that. And we've built all of our products ground up with AI, the AI era in mind here. And we want to talk about terms of performance in there and then security in the present with some of the known AI threats and AI attack vectors that we have now and how we can protect against that. But also any unknown threats in the future, right? How we can safeguard ourselves out into the future the best we can. We'll start with the access layer switching here, right? So the demand on networks has not decreased any, and it's only going to continue to increase, whether it's, the proliferation of IoT devices, streaming 4K video now from our security cameras, higher wireless density clients and Wi-Fi 7, all adding to the demand on the network here, right? So it's not uncommon to see like core networking upgrades now when it comes time to refresh or you're building a new data center or something like that, to be looking at speeds at 400 or even 800 gig, right? 5-10 years ago, that was unheard of. That's like an insane amount of bandwidth for that. And that started to creep out into the access layer switching as well too, where when it comes time to refresh our networks, given those demands that we just talked about, in a lot of instances, 10 gig isn't cutting it, and we're starting to see 25 or 40 gig refreshes out in the access layer switching as well too. And that's when the Catalyst 9350, or excuse me, the C9350 comes into play here. This is going to be our newest access layer switch. Comes in a variety of different flavors, right? So we have PoE 48 ports, PoE power, offering 1 gig speeds, all the way up to the 9350X, where we're going to have full 10 gig multi-gigabit 48 ports, all able to deliver 90 watts of PoE power on there, and that's made possible by the addition of a third power supply in the back. Backplane stacking has been increased to 1.6 terabits. But really the highlight here is going to be the addition of the Silicon One processors on the switch, and then the coprocessor, which we can leverage for different services as well too, without impacting the performance of the switch itself. So these are often referred to as smart switches. I'm not a big fan of that term, right? But kind of what's making them smart here, and it is in fact that Silicon One chip here. So we handle the networking processes on the Silicon One chip, and we can offload security services onto the coprocessor. We can offload, like if we're running apps on the switch itself too in the Docker container, we can offload those processes onto this coprocess here. And that's going to allow us to increase the performance and the security of these devices without having to sacrifice any of those CPU cycles for security services or what have you, right? So when we're able to do this, right, we can take advantage of that and get 100 gig IPsec tunnels right off the switch. We have full line rates, max security on all 48 ports of the switches, and we're able to get a lot of advanced analytics through there, through NBAR2 and some of our thousandized agents that can sit on these switches. We want to highlight the Trust Anchor module here when we're talking about the AI era here. That is going to guarantee hardware and software authenticity. So when you're buying a switch and running Cisco software, right, that Trust Anchor module is going to say, yes, this has been verified by Cisco to be proper. Everything is up to snuff on that. We're not running any software that's been compromised and what have you. And that's also going to enable us to do a lot of post-quantum computing resistance to attacks. And I'll talk about that a little bit more when we get to our routers here. But in the AI era with quantum computing around the corner here, our current encryption methods aren't going to be sufficient for much longer. These switches ship on iOS XE version 18 or 17.18.1. And if you're looking at running these, that's kind of where you want to land. If you're running 9200s or 9300s, I believe the Gold Star image is the 17.18.3 currently. So right in that time frame there. And it's going to ship with a lot of features that we all know and expect and want out of our switches on day one. So like 802.1x, OSPF, BGP, just to name a few, right? But if you're running any sort of like software-defined access fabric or are in need of those post-quantum compute protections, those are coming in some later firmware versions on this switch here. So just a little software roadmap on kind of where this switch is landing. And by the second quarter of calendar year 26, we should be fully deployed with all the features that were announced at launch with this. So being 17.18.1 is where you want to land on this 9350. There's a couple reasons for that. I mean, obviously it's going to be the first software version that supports this switch. But also in terms of the unified hardware, unified management platform, unified software platform that we announced 3 years ago, 17.18.1 took a number of huge steps in offering feature parity with a cloud-managed Catalyst switch versus an on-premise Catalyst-managed switch. So we've added things like Stackwise Virtual, routed ports, VRF support now inside a dashboard. Rapid per VLAN spanning tree protocol is able to be configured on there. We can run BGP now and configure BGP on our switches through the dashboard. And then on the far right there too, just announced a couple months ago, the ability to deploy EVPN fabric through dashboard. So currently, previously the only fabric that was easily deployed through any sort of management software was the software-defined access fabric and Catalyst Center. We now have the ability to operate a networking fabric at the access layer through the Meraki dashboard. And for those of us that still like to bang around on the CLI and aren't ready to make that full transition to a cloud UI to manage our switches, we've opened up the CLI through dashboard down to the Catalyst switches to be able to run commands on there, just to ease some operability and make that transition a little bit easier. Currently, it is privilege mode only with privilege exec, so priv 15 if you're up to date with your TACACs, coming in the future, right? So right now it's show commands. In the future we'll be able to actually run configure T mode on those switches from the dashboard. Sticking with dashboard, not a major announcement here, but just a nice to have. If you guys are running dashboard or have your Catalyst devices reporting into dashboard, you're actually able to get the end of sale, end of support information right in there. It's not a column that's exposed by default, but you can just go ahead and click the little cog wheel in the corner and display that information. And as with anything in the dashboard, if you can see it or click it in dashboard, it's exposed via the API. So if you have any sort of API programming or capabilities, you're able to report on that or pull that information via API out of the dashboard. So nothing earth-shattering. Not sure why it took 15 years to get it in there, but it's in there now, and it's definitely nice to have. Okay, so moving on, Wi-Fi 7, we've all heard it, we all know what that's about. It's been out for a little over a year now. At Cisco, we've been talking the last 3 years about unifying our hardware, software, and management platforms, right? So we're gonna give you the hardware, and you guys can choose how you operate it and manage it. So when Wi-Fi 7 came out, we wanted to see that through to fruition and not just, put out new hardware that can run the standard. We wanted to do a little bit better than that. So what happens when you purchase any of our Wi-Fi 7 access points, right, and you deploy it anywhere in the world, it's going to boot up and auto-identify whatever management tool you have selected for it, whether that's a traditional on-premise controller, the dashboard, or what have you, self-configure, and then it's actually going to adjust its radios on its own to comply with whatever regulatory domains for the country that it's in. So this really simplifies the ordering process, right? So for the example of like a 9176, you're just ordering the 9176, right? It's not -MR for managed in the cloud. It's not -I if you want to manage it, inside the United States, or -TOR if you have an office in Mexico or anything like that. That's all taken care of for you via software, right? So it's truly a easier method of deployment. Just ship it out, turn it on. It's going to, like I said, self-configure in the dashboard that you've chosen for it, and off you go. So of these access points, the two newest ones would be the 9172 and the 9179. And if you haven't figured it out yet, the 7 indicates Wi-Fi 7. With that, the 9172 there is going to be our lower end model. It's going to have internal omnidirectional antennas and 6 spatial streams. It does come in a hospitality variety model, and that's the one on the right, the more squared off one there. Useful for hospitals or dormitories or any sort of situation where you're wanting to provide more localized personal access. Having that access point closer to the tenants comes in handy there. On to the big one, 9179. That is going to be our outdoor, indoor, large venue, public space, arena, stadium access point. It's going to have built-in high gain directional antennas, and what's cool about those is you can actually do control the beam switching via software. So if you have a change in your venue, right? So like, the Fargo Dome, you got the full space, or if you're doing half the dome, right? You can actually change the way that beam is broadcasted out of the access point via software and not having to swap antennas in or out. So if you want a more directional coverage or more, widespread coverage, that's all controllable via software. These can be mounted outdoors. It's very simple to do. On the back, there's basically a cover that's weatherproofing that you just unscrew with your thumbs or what have you. No tools needed. That seals it off from the weather, and now we can mount this outside. Onto some of the industrial wireless updates. So if you're familiar with the ultra reliable wireless backhaul, we now have the wireless network connectivity for your clients and that wireless backhaul capabilities built into a single standalone unit. So when you deploy these out in areas where maybe fiber is cost prohibitive or not possible to lay fiber to get that backhaul back to a wiring closet or whatever, we can use the ultra reliable wireless backhaul to take care of that. Gigabit speeds on that. And the Qurb access points here are going to form a mesh, right? So if you have a situation, maybe an industry where you can't afford any downtime, but we need to maintain these wireless backhauls, these will mesh out on that backhaul, so the connection is made before there's an actual break in connectivity, ensuring uptime for your devices on that. The new campus gateway is a wireless LAN controller, right, that's cloud managed, but is still going to offer some of the traditional benefits of an on-premise controller, right? So if you have a large campus and you're needing to do handoffs or layer 3 switching, things like that, this is all managed through the cloud, but we're keeping that switching locally on-premise there. So it's an easy way to transition to a more cloud-managed environment without having to flip the personas of all of your access points, and go full Meraki mode, is what we called that in the past. You don't really have to reconfigure any of your VLANs or anything like that, so it's probably the most seamless way if we need to start managing everything through the cloud, but we don't want a large interruption to our wireless infrastructure. This controller currently supports 5,000 access points and 50,000 clients, so quite sufficient there for a lot of the larger deployments that I've seen in North Dakota here. Onto our routers, and much like our switches, right, these have been upgraded not only in terms of speeds and feeds, but also in terms of security for that AI era, right? So if we want to, if we want to consolidate our devices, right, we've built in the next gen firewalling capability straight into these routers. So that offers us, not only increased bandwidth, which you would expect to see on any sort of generational router upgrade, but also the ability to put security in line with that and have everything managed through a centralized policy. So a lot of improvements there on that, but probably the biggest takeaway with these routers would be the fact that they are the post-quantum secure. And I'm not going to say I'm an expert in that. It's a budding topic here, but at a high level, what this means is this is going to protect against harvest now, decrypt later attacks, where a bad actor is going to obtain your data, whether it be in transit or what have you, and sit on it until post-quantum computing catches up and we're able to crack that encryption almost instantaneously. So kind of how this works at a super high level and how we protect against this is it's done in one of two ways, and you get to pick which way you want to do it here. The first method is maybe the little bit more manual method here, but you're going to provide, say, router A and router B with an out-of-band seed, right? And this seed is a very complex bit of information that you feed into these routers. And from that information, it's going to generate a bunch of session keys and session key identifiers. So when router A begins its handshake to initiate a post-quantum secure tunnel with router B, we're not actually transmitting those keys back and forth. We're just transmitting the identifier. And the identifier is just for the sake of the slide here, I put X, right? But it's obviously more complex than that. Router A will say, hey, I want to communicate with you, use key identifier X. And since router A and router B were given the same initial seed conditions, they have generated the same keys and key identifiers. So router B will say, hey, I have key identifier X. Does this match? Yes. Okay, then they can start their communications. And the thought is, or the theory is that you will never be able to recreate those initial seed conditions, right? If it's time-based, you can't go back in time to generate those conditions to seed into the key service there. So post-quantum computing won't be able to crack it. Now, currently, we figure you're going to need about 20,000 qubits of quantum computing processing power to crack AES encryption, and IBM is the furthest along, and they have just eclipsed about 1,000 qubits. So we're still a number of years off on this, but if you follow NIST or strictly or loosely, NIST is saying that you should begin adoption of post-quantum security inside your network infrastructure by the year 27 and have it fully completed by the year 2032. Because they figure at that point in time, the quantum computing technology will have come far enough to where this is a real and emerging threat at this point in time, or at that point in time. The second way to do it would be through the secure key integration protocol, and you basically have a hosted quantum key distribution system that your routers will use the SCIP protocol on to communicate with and get their session keys, and then be able to talk to each other by saying, hey, I got this key X from our distribution system. Do you have key X? Yep. Okay, they match. Let's begin our tunnel creation there. So a very complex topic boiled down into 5 minutes. And to be completely honest, I had a little bit of trouble understanding it, so I went into ChatGPT. I said, explain post-quantum security to me, post-quantum security routing to me, and it spit this thing out and I didn't understand it. So I'm like, okay, explain this to me like I'm 30 years old, or I don't have a college education. I got all the way down to explain this to me like I'm 6 years old, right? Because my son is 6 years old, and it spit out like a cartoon thing here, and I'm like, okay, I kind of understand that now. So this is the family of the 8000 series secure routers, right? So we got everything from large to small, like you'd expect. Down on the small end, the 8100 series for your small branch offices offering LTE and 5G connectivity, all the way up to the large data center variants, right, where we're pushing through 23 gig of SD-WAN traffic or 45 gig of IPsec traffic. And again, the next generation firewall capabilities are built in line on these routers here. So we've kind of hit on it in a few different areas, right? The unification of the hardware, software, and management of our networking devices, right? It's come to fruition with our access points. It's now there with our 9350 series switches. So the story that started out 3 years ago is now, in my eyes, becoming more of a real thing. It's a real story now, and it's got real production value that we're seeing in town here. I've got a number of customers that are taking their Catalyst switches that are run on-prem with SolarWinds or Catalyst Center, and we're now flipping these over to the Meraki persona here. So a lot of progress has been made on this, and kind of the last piece of that puzzle would be the unification of that routing platform, which is roadmapped for the future. Okay, this next slide here, once it loads, it's going to be just it's a new product that's been released inside the Meraki dashboard, right? It's called Workflows, and it's going to kind of work through this really quick here. But what this is it's something that was released to not a lot of press, but through word of mouth is gaining a lot of popularity, at least with the customers I talk to. It's a SaaS-based drag and drop, low code, no code network automator. Not attached to any sort of Meraki licensing, right? So if you got 0 Meraki licenses and 0 Meraki devices, you can create an account, create a dashboard, and have access to this tool. But if you look on the left here, what we have are a bunch of pre-built integrations for things like ICE or Umbrella, Webex, ServiceNow, and things like that, where we can drag and drop different API calls onto that workspace and start automating some tasks inside of our network in a really quick and easy manner. So when I first got access to this tool, about the most basic demo you could ever create and do here. But what I've got is a call to Meraki dashboard API key, and I'm going to loop through all the organizations that my ID is associated with. From those organizations, loop through the networks that are present, and inside of those networks, grab all the network devices, their IP address, the name of that device, and then post a message into WebEx with a sort of an inventory report, right? And so from logging in to getting that first message out to WebEx, it took me about 30, 45 minutes to get this done. So a really simple way just to kind of automate some things inside your network. We got customers in town here using this to onboard devices into Identity Services Engine as they spin up new offices. So it's going to come with all those pre-built integrations, all the logic that you would expect. And then here's my workflow on the side here that I just explained, right? So get the organizations I'm attached to. Is it successful? Yes, no. If yes, get the networks. Inside the networks, grab all those devices, put them into an array, and then spit all that information out into WebEx. So when you click run, blue means it's in progress, green means it's been completed, and we'll just let this kind of workflow here work its way through. Everything's green now, it's all complete. And then this is just a very quick and dirty inventory report that I had it spit out to WebEx. So something that was announced and released with not a lot of buzz surrounding it, but like I said, through word of mouth is the power of this is kind of becoming evident, where it's literally just clicking and dragging API calls with some simple logic, and you can accomplish a lot of things really quickly. So with that kind of wraps up the networking section here. I'll be available at the booth if you got any follow-up questions. Otherwise, I think we'll have some time for a Q&A at the end here. And now I'll hand it over to a man who needs no introduction.
Thanks, Matt. Can always count on you to build up my ego there. Appreciate that. My name is Brian Giesen. I'm a collaboration SE. So while Matt's responsibilities at Cisco are to be kind of a mile wide and an inch deep on his knowledge, mine is kind of the opposite. I go an inch wide and and a mile deep on everything collaboration. Oh, hit the wrong one. Oh, now it's probably gonna have to build all the way through it, isn't it? There we go. So everything collaboration, so everything from meetings and messaging and voice and video and contact center are all things that I'm responsible for at Cisco. So what I'm going to talk about today, for those familiar with Cisco's primary or biggest kind of sales conference or customer conference, is called Cisco Live, that happens every summer. We have a specific one that's catered towards all collaboration products, which is called WebexOne. That is held in October, and typically we come out with some of the exciting things around collaboration and live, but we hold back a lot of the really good stuff for WebexOne. And so what I'm going to do today is kind of talk a little bit about some of those announcements that were released in WebexOne. So of course, my first slide is going to have AI on it, and probably every slide from here on out is going to have AI on it, because it's something that's pretty pervasive throughout the industry today. But the next era of AI is here. So everything from the AI-ready data centers and networking that Matt was talking about, to kind of future-proofing workspaces as well. And that's kind of the focus on the collaboration side. Making everything secure, resilient, and then of course everything accelerated by AI. So not necessarily talking about ChatGPT, just AI interacting with AI, but how AI has really kind of advanced a lot of the features and functionality within collaboration within the industry as well. So obviously people to people, focusing on that distance zero aspect, so making it feel like you're in the room with them even though you might be across the world. So really focusing on that aspect of, move away from that aspect of it. And then people and AI is kind of where the last couple of years folks have really started to kind of get into that. So again, interacting with the chat GPTs, or interacting with AI and making your lives easier there. And then of course in the future we're looking at, we're getting there now, AI, and not to kind of scare you into the old Terminator Skynet thought of things, but honestly having AI being able to maybe handle some of those tasks that that you don't want to have to handle on a daily basis. Maybe they can, maybe the AI agent can handle that for you, something that might make your life easier on a daily basis. And then all that brought together is kind of what we're kind of calling connected intelligence, something that you'll see a little bit of a buzzword. But we really focus on the experience at Cisco, especially with collaboration. It's one of those things that we say that good enough isn't good enough. We want to really focus on the experience, both the employee experience and the customer experience. Now, the employee obviously is self-explanatory, but the customer could be your fellow employees that are a customer to you, or the customers, of course, that your organization might support as well. But everything under that kind of falls under those categories, whether it's our devices, our suite, our voice and messaging and so forth, or the contact center side of things too. That gets into more of the customer experience side, and it's all AI powered. So first off, with the employee experience, I get to talk about kind of the AI agents for the Webex suite. So we have what's called the Cisco Webex AI Assistant. The Webex AI Assistant is basically our version of Microsoft Copilot. It can do pretty much all the things that Copilot can do. Things like within meetings, it can create meeting summaries and wrap up summaries and create tasks. Follow up tasks and so forth out of meetings. It can create space summaries of the meeting for you, so you don't have to go back and read those after the fact. Things like doing automatic translation of meetings, transcription of meetings, and so forth. So the AI agent is something that we've had within the platform the last couple of years, but continuing to get some advancements. And so these are some of the new advancements that we announced at WebexOne. First off, I see some of you out there taking notes. What if you had this little note taker app on your phone? All you had to do is press a button, and what it does is start taking notes in that meeting. So we've already had, to this point, the ability to summarize notes in the meeting, but you had to be in a meeting. You had to be in an actual WebEx meeting or virtual meeting in order to get those notes. Now we can do it whether you're in person in person meetings. So you just press a button on your phone. It starts to take that transcription of the meeting, and then afterwards we'll do that same sort of summary and create follow-up action items and so forth. So that AI, or the note taker agent, something that's right around the corner as well. Our polling agent will automatically create polls for you in the middle of a WebEx meeting, and somebody says, doesn't sound like this guy knows what he's talking about. What does everybody think? And it'll actually generate kind of a quick poll on the fly. It'll do that in the middle of a meeting. So again, not allowing you to continue on with your meeting, and it'll generate something on the fly and kick that out, and allow you to kind of generate that collaboration or that engagement with the other folks in the meeting. The task agent, again, kind of going back to creating those action items out of a meeting. What it'll do is it'll create those action items and then put it into your task list. So we will have a new task agent that's in our WebEx app. So the WebEx app is kind of what you're seeing up there, and you can see the Cisco AI Assistant and how it's interacting with, how you can interact with it, I should say. The task agent will kind of organize your tasks for you, do a to-do list, allow you to kind of follow up on things, but it'll automatically put a lot of those tasks in there. So rather than after the meeting, I have to go in, all right, I got to summarize my notes, put my tasks in my task taker there, so I know that I have to follow up on those things. It'll automatically do that for you. So again, kind of creating that employee experience and making your lives easier. Same kind of thing, it'll actually generate a follow-up meeting. So we could be in a meeting and say, I think we need to have a follow-up here next Tuesday at 2 o'clock. Is everybody available? Everybody in the meeting says, yeah, it sounds good. And what it'll do is it'll actually pop up a window. It says, looks like you want to schedule a follow-up meeting for next Tuesday with the same people. Yes, schedule, done. So it kind of fast tracks a lot of those follow-up items, and be able to schedule a meeting in the future as well. WebEx Calling is that's kind of our cloud-based voice platform. The AI receptionist is coming to that. So same kind of thing that, the AI is not going to replace a person, and it's not going to replace your primary person that's taking phone calls on a daily basis. What what if out of those 10 calls that a person gets, 9 of them are, can you transfer me to this person? Can you transfer me to that? What are your hours? What if you had a receptionist, an AI receptionist that could handle all 9 of those 10 calls, and that one call that actually a human has to interact with, that just frees up a lot more time for them. So the AI receptionist will take those calls, it'll try to transfer as needed, and then you can kind of get to a person if needed on the back end. That AI agent, that AI receptionist on that back end sounds like a real person. So it's not like you're talking to an IVR. It's not just a traditional IVR. This isn't call up and say, press 1 for this, press 2 for that, press 3 for that. It'll answer, it'll say, hi, this is your AI receptionist. How can I help you? And say, I want to transfer to Matt. No, I'm just kidding. I'm going to transfer to Joe. And they're like, okay, all right. It'll actually figure that out on the fly. You can talk to it like a real person, and it'll do those tasks for you. So again, AI receptionist coming to our cloud calling platform first, but will also come to our on-prem platform as well, which is a big advantage that Cisco has too. More powerful search capabilities. So that, as I mentioned, the AI assistant is our version of kind of an AI bot or AI assistant, I guess, for lack of a better term, in our platform. We can interact with some of the AI agents in the other platforms as well, things in Amazon and Copilot and so forth. And then speaking of Copilot, we are actually going to continue to integrate even further with Microsoft. So something that maybe 5-6 years ago, it was very much an either-or conversation when it came to Microsoft. It was like, all right, you either get all of our stuff or not, or all of Microsoft stuff and then not us. But that is not the case anymore. We very much are playing nice with everybody out there, and especially Microsoft. Microsoft's one of our biggest customers. They are and we are one of their biggest customers, to be honest with you. So we actually are doing a lot of integration with Microsoft, and one of the latest ones is Copilot integration. So you're working with the AI assistant in your WebEx app and want to search something that's on the Copilot side, you can automatically do that, and vice versa. You're working with Copilot on the Microsoft side, but you want to find out what happened in that meeting that we had last week in WebEx. You can search across that way. So really kind of trying to integrate, again, that integration with Microsoft and making sure that we're playing nice across that portfolio. Room OS 26. So getting into kind of the video side of things, video conferencing side of things, we actually released a new version of our operating system called Room OS 26. Anybody that has an Apple iPhone knows that Apple came out with iOS 26 this year. They stole that from us. So we came out with Room OS 26 first, but trying to stick with the calendar year and make it a little bit more intuitive when we release these things. But anyway, Room OS 26 introduced some new capabilities as well, including an evolved design. So kind of introducing some new wallpapers, some new skins, and so forth to make it a little bit more a little more future-proofed as well. We have a brand new ceiling microphone Pro that we released last year, actually about this time. Actually, as last year's WebexOne, I believe we released this. But what it can do is it's a ceiling microphone that can kind of hit either be flush mounted to the ceiling or can drop down as well. But the cool thing that we released in WebexOne is the ability to kind of exclude specific zones. So while that microphone is fantastic and pick up a large area, sometimes you might have maybe a credenza in the back of the room where people are getting lunch or something like that, or maybe I don't want to hear what Matt says in the corner because I don't like what he says, so I'm going to exclude that zone from that microphone. So it allows you to really have some customization in that room to make sure that you're only picking up the areas that you want to pick up. As mentioned, we play nice with the Microsoft folks. Our last, about 2 years ago, we released the option to be able to do MTR mode on our devices. So you can run it in our native Room OS 26, which interops with all these other providers. But then we also introduced the ability to run MTR mode on our device as well. This year, we actually are introducing a new availability to run kind of Zoom meetings on our Cisco rooms. So if you're one of those folks that standardize on Zoom meetings, first of all, I feel sorry for you. But if you do, we have the ability to actually run kind of the native OS on our devices as well. So you can join a Zoom meeting. It looks and feels like a Zoom meeting. So those folks that are comfortable with it or like Zoom, you'll get that experience when you join from our devices as well. The new director gives kind of a, this does kind of give a little bit of an animation, but what it does is rather than that Hollywood squares, you got that image in the upper left-hand corner, you don't have any idea who's speaking in that conference room. You can see that it actually creates a second window there and zooms in on those two people that are speaking in that room. So a lot of intelligence with our cameras or with our devices to be able to zoom in on the actual people that are speaking, giving you that, again, kind of that distance zero feel, like you're in the room with them and you understand what they're saying as well, or who's speaking at any given time. Note taker, I talked about it before with the phone, with the cell phone. You walk in and you can take the notes there. We can also do it with our video devices as well. So in a conference room, you go and you have a meeting, and it's not a virtual meeting. Again, with a virtual meeting, it'll automatically take those notes, or you can enable the AI assistant to take those notes for you. But if you're just having an in-person meeting or in that conference room, you're not joining an actual WebEx, we can actually start the note taker from the device as well. So again, allowing you to kind of instantly transcribe summarize, capture all that information, provide those action items after the fact, and get sent to you afterwards. So all of our devices are really powered by our relationship with NVIDIA. NVIDIA gives us the latest chipset that we've got in a lot of our devices, gives us the ability to really have a lot of these cool advancements and this AI stuff that we're building into there. So again, really building on that relationship has allowed us to create kind of the best devices on the market and the best devices for all your different needs, whether it's from the desktop all the way to the large conference room. And as mentioned with that Microsoft relationship as well, the latest certification for Microsoft devices is called the MDEP certification. So to this point, it's been called Microsoft Certified Devices. We are now going down the path of doing MDEP certified. So that's the kind of the next level, the next step. Again, kind of indicating how we're kind of on the bleeding edge and making sure that we're playing nice with the Microsoft folks as well. So as Matt mentioned, we've got a booth in the large room there with a lot of our devices. I encourage you to stop in, and we're happy to answer any questions that you have. But our devices are something, again, kind of the top of the food chain when it comes to experience within the marketplace. From a customer experience side of things, so we talked a lot about the employee experience. Now we're talking a little bit more about the customer experience, our contact center, our call centers. We have an AI agent that can preempt a lot of the phone calls in our contact center as well. So just like that receptionist, this takes it to a whole nother level. So you call into the contact center and you say you have an issue or something like that. You could speak to an AI agent rather than a person right away. That AI agent might be able to handle 9 out of those 10 calls. Again, 9 out of those 10 calls might be, I need to reset my password, or I need to, what are your office hours, or whatever. That AI agent can handle a lot of that stuff, or they'll transfer to a person when needed. So kind of the thought is using AI when needed, but human only when necessary type of a thing. And some of the new enhancements that we have for the AI agent as well, more language support, more agent-to-agent interaction, and so forth as well. So just continuing to build on the AI agent within our contact center. If you haven't seen a demo of that or heard of that, I encourage you to do so. It sounds like a real person. Like I said, you can interact with them in real language interactions. Pretty neat sounding. Along those lines, we're getting into AI quality management too. So from a contact center standpoint, a big part of that is making sure you get a lot of analytics out of there, so you know how calls are handled, how well they're handled, how the agents performing within your contact center. And rather than having to go and look and pull a lot of reports out of there, now we're going to have some AI interaction there that's going to actually generate a lot of those in real time for you. So again, kind of trying to making your life a lot easier when you're managing your contact center. And we're bringing a lot of that integration into Salesforce as well. So again, playing into the whole interoperability and playing nice with other applications and other technologies and so forth, integrating into Salesforce to make sure that where a lot of people use those sorts of CRMs, that's something that we're interacting with as well. And last, we get into the IT experience, so the management side of things as well. The Workspace Advisor is a new. I think if I click this, it'll show. Yeah, there you go. So if you've got our video devices in our rooms today, and people start to complain, well, we can't hear anybody in that room, or the audio's low, or the camera camera doesn't pick up the people as we need to. Our video devices are going to be smart enough to actually scan the room, realize, hey, I think you need one more microphone here, or I think you need to put a different camera in there that has a better pickup area or something like that. So the Workspace Advisor will automatically scan that room, realize how that room is built out, and maybe provide some optimization to make that room work a little bit better. And then that can feed into our Workspace Designer. Our Workspace Designer is something that's publicly available. You guys can access this as well. But if you've got conference rooms, this is showing the desk, because that was our newest release here at WebexOne. But everything from the desk all the way to the large auditorium, you can design a room ahead of time. So rather than having to bring in an AV company, or bring me, or bring somebody in to kind of say, I think this would work in here, I think you should go with this, we can actually build out a room. You can put the microphones in it, you can put the cameras in it, you can see what the pickup area is for those, and you know ahead of time, I know that this equipment is going to work into this room because I built it out on this Workspace Designer. So the Workspace Designer allows you to kind of build all that out ahead of time. And then again, bringing a lot of this information back into our Control Hub. Our Control Hub is our management platform for all things collaboration. So everything I've talked about today, from meetings, messaging, video, voice, contact centers, all managed in one place. And that's a huge differentiator, again, for our collaboration products, that we can all manage it all in one location. And so bringing all of this information back into Control Hub, even things like our Catalyst switches, a lot of things that Matt was talking about today, will be able to integrate that with our collaboration products as well, and leading into AI Canvas, which is something that's kind of exciting. Could be that's a roadmap item as well. But being able to bring all these different technologies, all these different Cisco technologies together in one place to kind of troubleshoot and get a lot of visibility into the network as well. Collaboration will be a part of that. So let's say you've got a scenario where I need to figure out why my CEO just had a bad call last week. Can you give me some more insight into that? And what it'll do is it'll pull information from the Meraki dashboard, from Control Hub, from Catalyst Center, whatever, and bring it all into one location. It'll actually tell you what's going on and even make recommendations for you. You can kick that off. So with that, that's kind of what I wanted to cover today. Just kind of talk about a lot of the AI agents for the Webex suite, like as I mentioned, that kind of increases your productivity both from an employee and customer experience, increasing kind of the customer contact center type of experience as well, and then with our devices and management as well. And again, I encourage you to join us in the booth today if you have any questions on anything I talked about, or if you want to see our devices, see them play, we've got a couple of them set up as well. So thank you.